welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to the Reading Through the Bible in a Year series. Today we will be talking about Numbers. I'm currently reading Deuteronomy, obviously because that comes after Numbers. It's hard to believe that I'm already done with Numbers and I'm like rocking along with Deuteronomy at this point. I feel like reading 10 pages a day because of my 75 soft challenge that I'm doing right now is really going to push this goal of me reading the Bible really fast, so that's really good. I also want to update that I did officially make that playlist for my channel so that you guys can find all these videos all in one place. I don't know if you can link a playlist, but if I can, I'll link it below. Just for future reference, I will be adding them all to there in case you guys want to see them. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Numbers. So Numbers, just like the prior chapters, was written by Moses, and these are my general takeaways from the book. First takeaway was that the first couple chapters were filled with numbers. I should have assumed there would be a lot of numbers considering the title of this book. I just wasn't anticipating how many that we would be reading. Honestly, it kind of felt like portions of the Bible where you read about the lineage and like how specific they were getting with all the numbers. It was a lot to intake within the first few chapters. I also wrote that specifically there were accounts of how many people were in each tribe during these chapters. Chapter 7 is a whole chapter dedicated to what people offered at the tabernacle's consecration. My next one was that war mentioned throughout the book of Numbers. It was just constantly mentioned that there was a war happening and they needed to gather all the men readily available for it. Chapter 11 in my Bible was titled The People Complain, and this made me chuckle because truly humanity since the fall has just been filled with humans throughout history complaining to God. So not that it was again intended for me to chuckle, but I found it humorous that it was titled The People Complain because truly what else is new? My next takeaway was in general, God's people keep complaining about their life situations and rebelling throughout the book, and Moses has to intercede on their behalf. This happens multiple times throughout Numbers. Chapter 15 was laws about sacrifices and laws about unintentional sins. Miriam and Aaron died in chapter 20. This one I have is Moses struck the rock that poured water out also in chapter 20. In chapter 22 is the story of Balaam's donkey, if anyone knows that story. Chapter 27, Joshua is appointed to succeed Moses. And then finally, I wrote the book ends with recapping Israel's journey, where they are currently with the leadership Moses and Aaron left for Joshua to start to take over. And with this, I just wrote that I did not know the Bible ever did that recap parts of the Bible for our own understanding and comprehension, so I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, those are my general takeaways from Numbers. I know that is a lot to take in, but again, with all these books, there's going to be a lot more than just this takeaway. This is just like the things that stuck out to me the most that I felt like I should write down. Moving on into my didn't know / didn't realize section. The first one that I wrote was about Aaron's blessing, which is in Numbers 6, 22 through 27. I didn't realize that blessing was from Aaron and did not realize where in the Bible it came from, so that was really cool to learn. For my next one, it comes from Numbers chapter 11, 10 through 12, which reads, Moses heard the people weeping throughout their clans, everyone at the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord blazed hotly, and Moses was displeased. Moses said to the Lord, Why have you dealt ill with your servant, and why have I not found favor in your sight that you lay the burden of all this people on me? Did I conceive all this people? Did I give them birth that you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries a nursing child to the land that you swore to give their fathers? And with this one, I wrote that this made me chuckle because Moses was asking God if he bears the responsibility of all the people because he did not give birth to them. I just love the casualness almost of the conversation that he's having with God. He's like, what responsibility do I have? I did not give birth to these people. Like, how is that for me to bear? Then my next one kind of ties in with this last one that I was just saying. In Numbers 11, 13 through 14, we continue. And it reads, Where am I to get meat to give all this people? For they weep before me and say, Give us meat that we may eat. I am not able to carry all this people alone. The burden is too heavy for me. And for this one, I wrote, on a more serious note, this was very relatable as a human. The burden of men's complaints is too much for man alone to carry. Only God is capable of handling our struggles. It was really affirming to know that even Moses found people to be exhausting at times. I love these glimpses of like, even though this happened so many years ago and they lived a completely different lifestyle than I'm living right now, the situations they were in were way different than the situations that I'm in day to day. Just as a human, it was very relatable and nice to know that even someone as highly held in the Bible as Moses found people to be frustrating as me, a human in today's world, often finds people to be. The next one I wrote was after that, my prior 2 points, God creates a support system for Moses. He asks him to appoint 70 elders to help bear the burden, so Moses does not have to do it alone. And I wrote that this is yet another beautiful example of how God meets our need, even when our sinful humanity continues to disappoint us. Like, again, if it was just really nice to read how Moses was struggling with something that I feel like I could really relate to, and then how God, time and time again, is providing for not only his people, but for Moses, and trying to show that it's not meant to be all our burden. It's not meant to be for us to carry. Also, just like the history of like appointing elders and having committees so that we can all learn to take care of each other, especially in our Christian communities. I feel like that is a really beautiful thing to learn about in the Old Testament as well. Next one I wrote down was also Moses was not afraid to ask questions, even though it was quite literally direct communication with God, and God showed him over and over again how powerful and infinite he is. He had a relationship with God, and even when his questions seemed doubt-oriented or maybe silly, in parentheses, to the average Christian reader, it just goes to show how much we do not know / cannot comprehend God's vastness. There were a couple points throughout this book that he would be talking directly to God, as he has been, that we've been reading about already. And like in today's society with like what we know about what happened in the Bible, I feel like it's very easy to be like, well, duh, God's gonna provide for you, and duh, God's gonna help you get through this, and like, why would you be questioning God right now? And to us, it might seem silly, but like to them, they were going through that in the moment, right? They're also human. So I don't know. I feel like there was this sense of like Moses was not afraid to ask questions despite it might seemed silly or dumb, or even if it seemed like he doubted what God was capable of. It was like, I feel like there's definitely a prioritization of having an honest, open relationship with God. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to read about. And then the last thing I didn't know and didn't realize was that Moses was described as a meek man. This was in Numbers 12, verse 3. That I obviously know Moses because he lived a long time ago, but I feel like you don't necessarily get descriptors of people's like character like that. So I thought that was really interesting to read about. And then finally, we have my favorite verse. It is Aaron's blessing, which does come from Numbers 6, verses 22 through 27. It reads, "The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, Thus you shall bless the people of Israel. You shall say to them, The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So shall they put my name upon the people of Israel, and I will bless them." I love those verses so much for so many reasons. Again, I did not know that this is where it came from in the Bible. I did not know that this was a blessing Aaron gave. I used to hear this every single week growing up as a pastor's kid. My dad would end each Sunday service with this blessing, and hearing that repetitively after going to church every single week. I think I obviously have a personal tie to this couple of verses right here. But I think in just a general sense too, I think this is just a really great blessing to hear and to read. And I don't know, I guess just seeing it in the Bible where it is actually from in the Bible, and like having literally years and years hearing that over and over and over again, this blessing, it was really comforting to read. So I really appreciated that. Yeah, that is all I have for Numbers for you guys. Like I said, I did start Deuteronomy, and there are 34 chapters in Deuteronomy. But honestly, again, we are reading 10 pages a day with this challenge that I'm doing. I wouldn't be shocked if it won't be long before I have to film Deuteronomy at this point. I'm really loving reading through the Bible. This has been so much fun. We'll say not as much as Leviticus. I think Leviticus has been the hardest one to get through. I would say Numbers was also similarly a little bit hard for me to get through just because of the history of it all and the numbers and everything. But still, I think I really think it's important for me to read it from beginning to end. So I'm so excited to see how Deuteronomy ends up being. Yeah, as always, I hope you guys have a good day. And if you're not, that's okay too. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!